What is up, you guys? It's your boy LDAWB coming at you with a new video and a new format. I'm creating a new series of influences that have affected me as an artist growing up, and I wanted to reflect on one of the many important artists in my life, starting with Mr. Tetsuya Nomura, and most importantly him, because most of what he has done as far as what he's been responsible for, of course, this man needs no introduction to those who know Final Fantasy very well. He's the one responsible for creating Cloud and Sephiroth and many of the most iconic characters. And what he has represented a lot with how I draw today and most of the aesthetics that I've kind of emulated from him. And I just wanted to share really about him and the many other artists that have affected me in a series of videos. And first of all, I just wanted to really talk about how it started, where it all began, and how I was introduced to him, really. And hopefully this will not bore you, but hopefully will help you and influence you as it has done to me. But it started when I was a kid. I started really taking a liking to what he really did first with Final Fantasy VII, with his design of Cloud and the rest of the characters. And I remember how distinctive it was and how anime-ish it was. There was a lot of over-exaggerated elements that I really admired about it. And I remembered being taken back, and I was like, this is amazing. But I didn't really want to know who the artist was at the time. I just was really taken back. And I remember not really playing Final Fantasy VII, and why, maybe in another video. But it was really until Brave Fencer Musashi came out. And I know I'm kind of going through this kind of fast. But it was really until the cover art of Brave Fencer Musashi, more specifically. And I remembered that he did that. And then I started to say, okay, he was responsible for Final Fantasy VII. So that was my real introduction to his work. And I just remembered how strikingly visually appealing he drew Musashi, and how he drew his hair, and how distinctive he looked, and how his form was just so appealing and so organic and raw. And I was really liking how bold his line work was. I had seen a lot of bold line art in comics before, but not as on purpose as this was. And I really remembered how much I really liked it. And it fast forward, Final Fantasy VIII came out, and that game variably enough was my first Final Fantasy game I had actually played through. And the art in that game and the design of that game was why I took a liking to Final Fantasy VIII. Now obviously I have nostalgia reasons behind why I like it, but more importantly it was more of the design and the characters that appealed to me more than the actual gameplay. And I remember his approach to character design was more realistic. It was still keeping the raw aesthetic pencil shading that he kept with 7 and Brave Fencer. And I really wanted to really study his art at that time. I really wanted to study how Squall's face was drawn, how Laguna's face was drawn, and if I needed help with women references, that I would retort to how he would draw Renoa and Kistis and Selphie. And I remember Selphie's mouth and how curved it was, and I was wanting to emulate that with some of the female female people that I was drawing at the same time, because it was just like that. It took so much impact on how I looked at art, and it was so different at that time. Now obviously if you look back, there are some things that could be changed, but when you look at his character designs and how he drew characters, the monsters, and some of the other elements of the game, you can actually see him really evolving as an artist. And essentially that was my evolution to artistry too, because I wanted to learn anatomy as well. And his anatomy at that time wasn't the greatest, but it was his style that endured. It invoked a lot of attention, and it wasn't really about that. It was just more of the feel. Squall's very simple symbolic outfit and his weight of black, and why black is so important, and why that embodies who he is as a character. Why Cypher is embodied in gray, because he has a very neutral color. He's not very much a good guy or a bad guy. And like the things that I would notice from 8 reminded me a lot of some of the simpler aesthetics of Star Wars. And I still deem Star Wars as a very heavily symbolically important design. As far as their characters, they're very simple. But not to go on a tirade on 8, I really just looked to his artwork as the Bible at that time of how to draw faces. And I remember also he didn't work on Final Fantasy 9, but he worked on Final Fantasy 10. And to my opinion of his work, my opinion is that FF10 and Dirge of Cerberus are his probably most best designs of examples of over design and artistry that I feel are his best works, are those two games. In terms of over design and just showing the masses what he has. Like, all right, I'm gonna go crazy. And I would have to say also that those two games specifically, I would say, and Crisis Core. I would also have to say Crisis Core is another game that he kind of went bonkers with. And I love those games. And I really love how just crazy he went with 10, and how Tidus looked, and how Yuna looked, and just a lot of the over accessorized things that he would just go through. And I think at that time it was a new era. It was a new era of trying things out, and you could see it in this game. And it's great to this day. It has endured through the test of time. But fast forward, and we're going to talk about a really important game that came out, and that was Kingdom Hearts. And for the first time, I'd never seen him draw very polished and clean work, as clean as, no pun intended, simple and clean, with Sora and Riku and Kairi. And his line work on those games, specifically on the first one, were clean and polished and curvy and bold, and very much kind of involving the Disney aesthetic. And Disney happens to be another thing that I love also. And I just love how he would take those two things and mold it into this unique style. And I wanted to emulate that. I wanted to emulate the look of that. I was drawing bold lines like that. Maybe to my credit still, of why I have this like ability to want my lines to be perfect is due to this game. And I can go on and on about this, but Kingdom Hearts really made an impact on me as an artist, really on form, really on style, and just kind of the wavy vibe of simplicity. And it wasn't simple. It was just very Disney-esque, but keeping some of the Final Fantasy aesthetic in there with the accessories and things like that. I think now we're at a point to where design needs to be more simplified. Now, and I very much think of Kingdom Hearts 2, and it's nothing against him. And people will joke around the belts and the chains and all those things, and I think that's just a product of the time. But I think it's okay. you can see the gradual changes in Sora's design in 1, 2, and 3. And it still is as impactful and as important and as influential as it ever was. And Tetsuya, and I really think that his work on Kingdom Hearts will be a kind of a testament to his work as an artist. I really think that when he drew Kingdom Hearts, I think he was himself. This is what he wanted to create, and I sensed that when I watched and looked at some of his designs and works. And Riku is another one that I really liked, and Roxas. If you guys know, I really like Roxas a lot, and how he drew Roxas and the nobodies and the heartlesses and the creatures in that game. And I also want to talk about one more game before I'm done, and I know I'm going past the 10-minute mark on this, is the sequel to Brave Fencer Musashi, and that game is Samurai Legend Musashi, which is the sequel to Brave Fencer Musashi. And I remembered how distinctively different it was. It wasn't taking the curve aesthetic anymore. It was still keeping the bold lines, but making them more edgy. And I remember how unapologetic it was. Like, it was on purpose. There was no curves in Musashi's design in this game, and his coloring was immaculate. And it seemed to me that he was having a lot of fun making this game. Though the game was abysmally bad, I really feel like his design in that game, like his character setups and stuff, are so good and so beyond, like, years and years ahead of its time, in my opinion. But anyway, that's really all I have to really talk about. To this day, I still really gravitate to a lot of the things that he still does in terms of line art, in terms of style, the thickness of the lines, and what I really feel is a very stylistic artist. As much as he is a great designer, he's also a great artist. And I think a lot of people sometimes forget that. They get tired of Tetsuya Nomura's faces, and they're like, oh, this is a new hairdo, he looks just like Cloud, blah 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 blah. And yeah, that may be true, but we have to give the man the credit he deserves, I feel. And I hope that I'm able to do that and really share with you guys how much he has impacted me as an artist. And hopefully I didn't bore you at the process. And if you really like this kind of video, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you liked it, great. If you didn't like it, leave a dislike. Feedback is always important. And let me know what you guys think. If I can share these things with you, and if you guys are okay with it, let me know. Let me know in the comments below. And yeah, thank you for hearing me, and thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you guys have made it this far, thank you. And most importantly, thank you, Tetsuya Nomura. I've never met Tetsuya, and I would love to meet him and share with him how much he's impacted me as an artist. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Anyways, guys, that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.